This is unacceptable. It just is. Because you're grooming children into gamblers. If you're a company and you're designing a game for children, you cannot have these gambling practices in them. You cannot. It's just that simple. Because you're grooming children into gamblers. Well, welcome in. Thank you for popping in. I'm doing a bit of a lecture talking about the different styles of monetization practices that are being used in Roblox. I wanted to get into, because like I also play a lot of gacha games myself, and I'm a father of a beautiful 7-year-old little girl. So when I've seen all of these practices being cooked into the games that she's playing on a regular basis, I thought it was very worthwhile to do a bit of a public service announcement, to do a bit of a video, ideally catering towards informing parents about the practices that are being used against their children on a day-to-day basis. I want kids' parents to be informed so that they know what they're looking at when they see these things, because not every kid, not every parent comes from the same background that I do, where they're looking for these malicious practices being used, and particularly not being, they're not exactly looking for it in children's games. So I started off the lesson talking about how monetization was done in different styles, right? We have essentially they typically lump monetization in these games down into 4 different practices, right? 4 different groupings, right? Usually you have your achievers, and this is going to be like the bulk of your game, your players, right? These are going to be the ones that want your progress. They want to get to the mid game, they want to get to the end game, they want to beat your video game, right? Like these are going to be the bulk of your purchasers, right? Then we have your socializers. These guys are going to be usually, this is going to be your cosmetic purchases, right? You're going to be selling these people more of their outfits, more of the, which Roblox has very, very good outfit sales. I would say the avatar customization setup in Roblox is extraordinary. I can't capture the back end for some reason, doesn't want to work, or I'd show the store options. It's actually pretty robust. It's pretty impressive. There's even a market for designing character model pieces, and then you can sell it for X amount of Roblox. So again, there's incentive for people to design things in this engine and sell it to make money. So this is a whole system, and it's a group of people that there's sales directed towards. But for the most part, this is going to be a smaller end of your sales. Cosmetic purchases don't typically amount to a large bulk of purchases for these companies, but they do supplement, right? They're definitely a thing. Up next we have, well, they call them killers. For the purposes of this, though, I'm just gonna call it power gamers. These are the people that you're gonna sell power to effectively. They're gonna pay for an advantage. They're gonna pay for some sort of an advantage over other players to give them that competitive edge. A lot of like your pay to boost or pay for weapons or that sort of stuff. These purchases will fall under power gamers or killers is what they like to call them. And then last but not least, you have your explorers, which my gigantic noodle is in the way of, but yeah, explorers. These are going to be the people that are going to cater towards exploration. They want new content. They want to see new things. They want more storyline. They want new characters. They typically care about the lore of the video games and things like that more. And again, this category, these explorers, this is the hardest category to satisfy, because they actually want real content, and typically content, it's kind of the most expensive thing to produce, right? As far as a gaming companies goes, the actual genuine bumps of content are the biggest commitments of their resources. So hardest to appease to, but you need to appease to each of these each of these groups in some amount in order for your game to be successful. Most of the popular games that you see, they cater directly towards your achievers, right? This game all about racing, it looks like. I'm just gonna hold on. I'm gonna switch back over to, because I think Grow a Garden is more it's more on the nose as far as where this demonstration is going, and I can't even find. All right, here we go. So Grow a Garden, great example of how a game sells to achievers, right? This game is exclusively designed for the most part to achievers. It's the whole premise is you purchase seeds, they grow, you know, fruit bearing plants. You can then sell said fruits for more money to grow more seeds. Obviously, all the game progress in this is oriented towards achievers, right? So when you open the shop, their store is catered towards achievers, right? Their purchases are getting seed packs, getting things that will progress your garden, that'll grow your, make you more money so you can progress in the game. I love that. I love that. So like the shop here showcases so many different combined sales tactics that it's actually wonderful here. Right off the bat, obviously, this is a loot box. It is effectively a Skinner box. To touch briefly on Skinner box, I don't want to get like super deep into Skinner box. I highly recommend, if you haven't done understand what that is, I do recommend doing a little research on it. But effectively, the premise is that a instructor put a bird. Oh god, am I going to be able to bird? Yes, this is a bird. Right. Anyhow, and he put a button in the box that basically anytime the bird pushed the button, it would produce food, right? Every time that he pushed, the bird would tap that button, a piece of food would drop into the box. And through this practice, he learned that he can condition this behavior. And he then learned that he could also condition behavior in humans through a similar sort of practice, where reward is given through repeated action. Later on, he also determined that inconsistent reward was also better for lasting lasting development of this habit. And what that means is it wasn't actually better for the bird to always get a piece of food. He found out that it didn't teach the method as well as if the button gave the bird a piece of food every once in a while. Maybe every 3 or 4 clicks or something, the piece of food would drop in. He learned that this tactic was actually better as far as conditioning the bird's behavior. Why this is relevant is because this sort of tactic is now cooked into a lot of games that you see. This repeatedly push the button and occasionally will give you a reward. This game is basically that, if you were to really, really cook it down to it. But I bring this game up in particular because right here you have a loot box. So the main primary way that people are designed or that are given to progress in this game is loot boxes, which are obviously directly gambling, right? It's not even a question. And I guess I'll talk. So there's 3 different ways that typically these companies are going to monetize as well, right? If you were to go into monetization by stage, so up first you have your hook. So this is going to be like 3 different types of purchases that you're going to see as a regular thing throughout. What did I do? Throughout all of these games, right? The hook is the first purchase. This is the hardest purchase to make. It's also known as the icebreaker. It's basically what you're going to see from this is the company is going to give you some outlandishly crazy offer that you would be crazy not to take it, right? You see this all the time where they pop up. They'll give you your first purchase, you'll get 800% value. You see that shit all the time. It's this for the one-time buy, you can get this one for 90% off. And what that's designed to do is to break the ice. It's to get you past that initial barrier of putting in your credit card information and becoming a buyer. Once you've made that big step of becoming a buyer, you've already justified it in your brain to continue paying. So the hook of the purchase is the first step. They got to get you on the hook. Once they got you on the hook, you become a paying gamer, and it becomes increasingly. I think it's like they decide it's like 300% more likely after you've made your first purchase that you will continue to make further purchases past this point. So the hook is incredibly important in the game design, and you'll see, like I said, just watch for it. You'll see when the first sales that they typically offer you are almost always going to be exceedingly better value than anything else. Once you've made the first purchase, some games even have a resetting system on this. And Raid Shadow Legends has been criticized for this. So what Raid Shadow Legends does is if you haven't purchased something in 3 or 4 months, they will reset that barrier. They will reset your first time buy clock to try and get you back in again. So they'll reset you back to that first time icebreaker. Oh, okay, well, you haven't spent money in like 4 months. You know what? Here you go. This one's only, it's 90% off. You definitely should give us a little bit more of your money. And again, it's trying to incentivize that behavior, that getting you back in as a paying customer. So once you get past the hook, you get down to the habit, right? The habit is going to be the meat. This is going to be the daily login thing that you want to do. Your game needs to have habits. It needs to have something that incentivizes day by day logins. And that was actually why I had pulled up in the last game. And here, let me switch back to that one. There we go. Hey, what's up, kitty? All right, here we go. So I wanted to bring up this game because this game has a great daily login. This is habit. A lot of games will attach some sort of payment system. You get a paid daily battle pass, for example, where if you log in every day, you get increasing rewards. But this is a habit forming structure, right? And what you'll see most of the time is that as the day by day login rewards go on, the rewards become increasingly better. So they want to reward your good behavior by logging in every day. This is habit forming. You're pushing the button in the box, and you're pushing the button in the box once every day, and you're getting your piece of food spit out by the game. It's the same kind of logic. This is their habit forming behavior. Habit purchases are going to be like event purchases are great. If you have an event that's in the game that you play, and they have new event eggs or whatever, or there's a new event weapons or whatever that you need, habit will be the consistent release of these events to form the habit, to give you the thing that you want to log into every day in order to spend the money, right? How am I doing today? I'm actually doing really good. I found out that I had my microphone muted for a long freaking time though, which is kind of sad, but it's cool. It just gave me a dry run. I got to do a bit of a dry run on talking through some of this stuff. How are you doing? The last purchase type that you'll see is going to be your hobby. So hobby is, if you've ever watched the videos about the gentleman that spent $800,000 on Diablo Immortal or whatever, this is almost exclusively done through hobby purchases, right? These are the people that don't just play for a hook. They haven't just played for a habit. These are the people that are playing every single day. They're getting home off work. They're hopping into this game and they're playing. You want to have purchases that that allow people that want to spend money to forego time to do this on a regular basis. So what the Diablo Immortal would do for this, try to find an example of doing it in game. I'm sure that this game has regular event eggs that they rotate through. That's a normal thing that they'll do, right? These eggs will probably rotate seasonally with eggs, with the events that they run in the game, so that there's a new loot box, new gamble box that you can buy as a hobby, right? Or in other games, you'll see pull a sword is a good example of this, where your hobby becomes getting new swords that release with the events, and you need to be able to max these out. So seasonal rewards will become the new metagame for your game, right? You see this through World of Warcraft. Whenever a new expansion drops, all the meta pushes forward, right? All the gear pushes forward. If you don't have the new gear, you're just behind. So those are your hobby players. You want to keep these people paying. You want to keep these people on top, and given a way to pay to be on top. And that's how you cater to your hobbyist players. Drink water. I got coffee. It's got some water in it. It kind of counts, right? So I'm just going to talk about volume of sales, since we got this lovely display here for us. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with something known as a false scarcity. giving the idea that there is only X amount of something left to incentivize the purchase, right? This sort of shit has existed in sales tactics since the beginning of time, effectively. Don't want to go back to work. Yeah, I understand. I gotta go into work in a couple hours here. So we're trying to do this like lecture here sort of thing. And then yeah, here in a couple hours we're gonna have to go to work too. So I understand. um so what this is from is hot state and cold state thinking. So if you have not read the book Thinking Fast and Slow, I highly recommend. Effectively what the theory is, if I were to like try and boil it down, is if you were to ask somebody what's 13 times 92, a lot of people could probably sit down and figure that out in their head, but you got to get the cogs spinning, you got to get the engine cooking, right? It takes you some time to brain it out. Whereas if you were to say, finish the sentence for me, gonna go make that bread, and most people would finish that sentence pretty easily, right? That's an easy thing to do. It's hot state versus cold state. Basically, in your hot state, it's your quick thinking. It's not analytical, it's emotional. In your hot state, you're responding with emotion. You're not responding with the analytical side of your brain. So what they'll do is they'll try to add false scarcity. They'll try and rush the purchase to make you not able to use your analytical side of your brain. So you'll see these pop-ups that'll pop up in the game. Only 5 minutes left. You only got 5 minutes on this fucking sale. And if you don't buy this right now, you're not going to get this amazing deal. And again, it's what they're doing is they're trying to force you to make the purchase in the hot state mental, thinking fast instead of slow. So there's a few different ways that they're doing this here too, right? Not only is it they limited stock, right? There's only 34 of these digital pets left. They can't possibly make any more of these, right? You'll see fire sales are a common thing you'll see at grocery stores, on this weekend fire sale. Another really common tactic that you'll hear, it's kind of like a car salesman tactic, but it's the same thing, is, oh, I got somebody coming by looking at it later today. They're really interested. These guys are coming by later today. So, if you want to get this thing, you got to get it right now. It's a sales tactic. It's all sales tactics that we've seen, since they were trading rocks and shit. But my point is that when you combine all of these practices all together being used against a primarily child audience base, it's a problem. They're being very directly desensitized to these practices, these monetization practices that have been iterated over and practiced against adults over the last decade with the massive insurgence of gacha games and freemium games on the phones. And make no mistake, Roblox is a freemium game. So, like, these designs make sense when you think about that the game designers, the map builders, are trying to make money, and gacha style game designs make incredible amounts of money. The problem is that they're being played by kids. So you're using gambling incentivization tactics and sales strategies on children, and that is the problem. And that, like I said, that's the whole point of this, is to try and help parents understand better what they're looking at when they see these sales tactics being used against them and their children. The login rewards, like I was talking about this, how login rewards, how they, this is the Skinner box mentality, where they're incentivizing this daily clicking of buttons, and progressively the rewards get better. So that's like, it's forced retention. They will make you want to keep coming in. Then there's going to also be loss aversion. I don't see this here, but I don't play the game yet. So what this will be, so loss aversion's another tactic that they're going to use, as far as trying to get you to trick you into your money. What this will be like is, so say for example you're logging in daily to this game, and you skip, or say you miss day 3 or whatever, you're at say you're day 9, and you miss your login, and you come back day 11. What they'll do is they'll sell you day 10. right? They'll sell you that day 10 that you missed, more than likely. And that's that loss aversion. They want to keep you in the, in the loop. They want to, you feel like you've already earned that. You've already earned your way up to here. So they'll let you continue, they'll give you the opportunity to pay to not lose what you feel like you already had. And this kind of further goes into the IKEA effect. So the IKEA effect, and this, you'll see this a lot with the games that have much more robust RPG systems built into them. But effectively, it's that once you build something, you typically have more attachment to it, right? As far as if you put something together by hand, you're typically more attached to it. You have that that amount of time commitment. So what they'll do is they'll force a very small amount of time commitment out of the player. Usually that'll be a good example of that is needing to do a daily dungeon clear to get your daily dungeon rewards in a video game. But this can be expressed through a lot of ways. But effectively, by clearing the dungeon the first time, you've put in an amount of work, you've committed an amount of your time to it. So you have an amount of personal attachment to it. So a purchase will come as it'll soften the blow of a purchase. So how they'll do this is, again, say you finish your dungeon, and at the end of the dungeon, they say, hey, you kicked this dungeon's ass. Wouldn't you like 2 chests instead of 1? And that is it's effectively, they're capitalizing on the fact that you did put in work. You have that work put in already that you have that personal attachment to, and they're going to try and capitalize on that by offering you additional rewards to capitalize on your attachment to your time that you've already put in. It's close very much to cost loss fallacy as well in gambling, where you justify further purchases by the previous purchases you've made. You have that personal attachment and commitment, right? Let's see, where else do we talk about? Price anchoring. Let's talk about price anchoring. All right, so what price anchoring is the idea that you're setting down what something costs, right? So if I price anchor, if I'm making a video game, for example, and I set this, I set this egg here to, that's a $30 fucking egg right there. Okay? I'm going to say it's a $30 egg right there. But I will give it to you, just you, right now, for 90% off. So now hey, that's $3. You're getting a $30 egg for $3. That's fucking amazing, right? No, not really. I just set a bullshit price point for it. Right? I set the anchor point of the price fucking ridiculous. So you didn't get a good deal. I just sold you a bunch of pixels for $3 fucking. Right? So that's price anchoring. And you'll see that regularly. They'll overly inflate the value of things to make you justify when you get it on sale. Raid Shadow Legends is notorious for this. Where I believe one of their, the crystals, the abyssal crystals or whatever, those suckers are price pointed at like $35. And it's crazy. Like, I even commented back when I played the game, like, honestly, if they made the price point just a bit lower across the board, they probably get a lot more purchases. But they don't. And again, it's so that they set the anchor, the perceived value. Give me my pixels. Exactly. They set the perceived value of that shit so high, like so sky high, that if, they offer it to you at a discount rate or they reward it to you, then you feel as though you've received that amount of value. And like it's entirely based on what they anchor the price point at on those items. Ideally, they want to anchor the price points high, so that when they put the things on sale, it's a perceived value to you. You perceive that you're saving fucking $27 in the instance I gave you. You know, where it's like it's a $30 purchase at 90% off. Like, oh, I'm saving $27 by making that purchase. It's like, no, you're not. It was the item was never valued at $30 to begin with, right? So I mean, it's a fool with their and their money soon parted. But these games are designed to children, and I can't emphasize that enough. This is a children's game. I'm running around as a fucking bunny in a game for children, and we're talking about gambling practices, right? Like that's kind of like the overarching, the moral of the story or sort of thing. So that will, I'll get into social proof. Yeah. Let's talk about social proofing. This is another tactic that you'll see very regularly. FOMO anchoring to get, yeah, oh yeah, the fucking the $90 mounts, 100%. And yeah, Blizzard is notorious for the FOMO mounts. I've never purchased one of their mounts. Never will. Never freaking will. So but social proof, actually that's a great segue. Because social proofing exactly is what you're talking about when it comes to those $90 mounts. Social proofing is, the idea at least is that you want poor players to feel poor. You want VIP players, your paying players, to feel like VIPs, to feel like they're better than the poor players. This is very common. How you'll see this in a lot of games through let's see. Are there any titles here? Okay, I don't have anybody talking in here for titles. Titles are a very, very regular way you'll see this, where you'll be able to pay for a VIP title on a server. Here, let me go to... I'm just going to kill this for just a second. Because I'm going to go to one of the other largest Roblox games, Brookhaven. All right, so Brookhaven, this is a purely socializing game, right? Kids will play this game when they want to play house or, you know, do whatever. There's no like achieving in this game. This is purely a socializer's gameplay, right? It's purely so the sales practices, all the sales are going to be oriented towards socializers. So one of the things you can see right away off the bat, this guy right here has a premium tag on his name. That means that he pays for VIP on the server, and they probably have a badge over their head as well, that it socially lifts them above the other players. They're known as a paying player, right? So that's that. And another way that they'll do that is in gacha games. You'll see where players, if they pop a shard or whatever, and they're rewarded with a 5-star. How often have you seen it where that'll get announced in world chat, right? Or that'll get announced in like, you know, X so and so has pulled whatever out of whatever shard. It's very common, and what that's doing, again, it's social proof. It's them trying to announce to the poorer players, like, hey, this guy got this cool fucking thing, you could too. You know, and it's for the person that got the cool fucking thing to kind of rub it in the face of everybody else. I got this cool fucking thing, look at me. So like you'll see that social proofing is a very common way of selling things to players as well. Badges and like I said, and that's, so like pull videos are really, really popular because of that, right? Like a lot of people make content exclusively, well, not maybe exclusively, but about pull videos, because it's very interesting. Minecraft servers do that announcement so much. Really? What sales are, or what's announced in Minecraft? I'm not very informed on Minecraft, aside from, you know, what I've seen in YouTube. But people love pull videos, and there's a reason why, right? People love seeing that incredibly rare pop out of a shard. And there's a bit of it where, like, I personally, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I don't watch pull videos. I just don't. They're not interesting to me. They never have been. You know, maybe sometimes like the react to a poll can be kind of interesting or funny. Techies had some pretty fucking funny reacts to that. But as far as seeing the swirl of lightning and the character appearing on the screen, I don't give a fuck about that. So it's not my kind of content, but I do understand, you know, the people that spend the money on the game. do like seeing that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that there are people that do genuinely actually get these things when they push the button. So one thing I'd note is I did want to talk a little bit about choice and limiting choice. I think the last game Minecraft players servers will typically have loot crates for purchase. Really? Are you kidding me? I didn't even know there was. Oh my gosh! I might have to actually buy Minecraft and take a look at that game next. Yeah, I didn't realize that that loot crates and gambling had seeped their way into Minecraft as well. That's really really bad, because this shit is seeping into all of our children's games, all of our games for our kids. And like that's I know that not a lot of people are going to see this. I'm going to clip this into a YouTube video and do my best to put it on blast and try and present this information to people, because like people don't understand that all of these things are getting cooked into kids games, and it's going to breed kids into gamblers. It just is. There's no way you can look at all of these sales tactics being used in a children's game and not like intuit like, well, gosh, that might desensitize them to these practices being used against them going forward, right? Like one of these I haven't seen a good example of too many options, but that is something that's worth talking about. Choice. These games, honestly, all the games that we've pulled up have had a great shop, so I haven't had a bad example to use. But let me see. I guess Grow a Garden was a good example. Servers are hosted by third parties. Mahjong sells things on the store on their Bedrock edition. Yikes. Yeah, and it's always so like it sounds like the money's not, or is the money going back to Minecraft in that instance? Because I know part of the problem is with Roblox is that the money is being split between the map developers and Roblox themselves. So the map developers are really the culprits. The map developers that are cooking they're developing their boxes based around Skinner box, and then they're cooking all these gacha antics into them. Anyhow, so I brought up this store because I wanted to show that how incredibly simple this store is. And like they've almost set their store up by by the Bartle types that they're selling to. That's kind of funny. So in this shop, there's only 4 options of things to buy, really, right? For the Mahjong hosted store, it's split between them. There's a creator sale cut, so that's yeah. Again, it's the exact same problem then. Yeah, where the creators are getting a cut, so they're building gacha games for children. It's the exact same thing then. Looks like I'm gonna have to start putting them on blast too. This is unacceptable. It just is. If you're a company and you're designing a game for children, you cannot have these gambling practices in them. You cannot. It's just it's just that simple. Because you're grooming children into gamblers. Like, there's a whole another fucking can of worms regarding Roblox and the whole pedo situation on the platform, and they're getting blasted for that. And I agree with all the shit that that people are levying against them, and I think that they need to unban Schlep. But this is another issue altogether, and this is a systemic issue that I'm seeing in most children's games now, where they're being designed with this this payment system set, all these payment these strategies cooked into them. So I talked about choice. There was a study where they set up a shop at a store where they had fucking those 20 jars of jars of jam, effectively, 20 different kinds, and then they had another display where they had 5 different jars of jam or whatever, 5 different kinds. They found that largely the display with only 5 options actually sold way better than the display that had 20 options. Yo, Foxy! Also covering Roblox grooming? Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about how it's grooming our children into gamblers, effectively. I'm doing a bit of a deep dive on all the different sales strategies that are being used. And welcome back, Foxy. If it's a third-party server, then Mahjong gets nothing. If they've attempted to enforce lower odds have been shown for any loot crate. I think loot crates, it's sad that they have to fight to show the odds on a loot crate. Loot crates should be removed entirely anyway. It's a children's game. It's gambling. Why are we allowing any form of gambling in these, like, I personally take issue with it. I think that it's literally just setting the table for these kids to, grow up desensitized to gambling and not see it for what it truly is. And then they go in, they get tricked by the exact same fucking practices going into their young adulthood. And a lot of the problem is, like, like I said before, parents don't understand, like, they don't come from this with the gacha background that I do. Right, most parents probably haven't played Raid Shadow Legends. Most parents probably haven't played, most parents have probably bought a car, so they understand at a level of sales tactics being used against them, but they're probably not looking for it here, and they're probably not as informed as they could be about the different tactics being used. So, like, right amount of choice is very important. Like I said, in the practice with the 20 jars versus the 5 jars, the 5 jars all won out as far as sales. So there is an ideal amount of purchases, right? An ideal amount of options to give your customer. You don't want to overweight your customer with options. What's up, Cody? Something else to look at later? Absolutely. I don't want to buy Minecraft because I don't have a lot of budget right now for stream stuff, but as soon as we get some for that, I would definitely do a video talking about Minecraft as well. Because I think we need to put all these kids' games on blast. Any game that is directly targeted towards children that has these gambling tactics cooked into them needs to be brought out into the fucking light and put on blast for it. It's just inherently evil to be tricking our kids into gambling. So we talked about choice and how they'll cover choice and they'll limit their stores. Oh, thank you for the pets. They'll limit their stores down to ideal amounts of choice, catering towards, again, and it's also like when you're selling to a child, you don't want to have too many options. You want, you want the options for a child to be very simple. They want them to have maybe 4 or 5 options at best. That, it makes it simpler for them to spend money. So there's a little bit about time commitment. I did do the pads. What do you mean? I did it manually, but it's so there's a little bit to talk about time commit as far as I don't want to get too deep into this because this isn't really the target of the conversation that I want to talk about. So something around 98% of a game's purchases will come from whales. Whales are the bulk of the purchase power. These are the people that are spending your thousands and thousands of dollars on the games. These are not your casuals, which are probably spending, somewhere that's probably somewhere near the split. Is that the Pats of Automatic? They should be, but for some reason, Mix It Up has not wanted to interact with VTuber Studio lately. It's been having some weird disconnects there, so I've just been doing it. We should go back to getting these kids those pull tab lottery cards for 50 cents on their birthday instead of, yeah, you're right. If we're gonna groom them into gamblers, let's get them started proper. We'll get them some freaking pull tabs from the local bar, right? So I brought up the whale versus casual thing because when you're designing your payment structure, you want it to have whales in mind, right? If you want your game to do well, you want it to have whales in mind, because 98% of your income will probably come from a whale. All the gamblers come from whales? It's racist. It's the second time in 3 days I've been called a bigot. No kidding. Oh jeez. No, Twitter's been fucking heated lately, by the way. Twitter's been hilarious. If anybody hasn't been on there, JD Vance's tweet today calling I don't remember the guy's name. He basically called another guy a dipshit on Twitter. It was very funny. Seen the rise and fall of some of Roblox, seen hackers, anti-hackers, or horrors not when growing up. I believe Roblox requires a new CEO. I could definitely agree to that. Just with the way that the game structure has become, it's a basically it's a platform of Skinner boxes, designed to groom gamblers that is infested with pedophiles. That's basically what Roblox has become. So I talk about the 98% for whales because you want your game structure to be able to cater towards whales, and whales typically take a lot longer to cook. They talk about the initial purchase, so this is the average amount of days to initial purchase for the size of purchasers. And so this is going to be your small fish, this is going to be your dolphin, and this is going to be your whale. So very typically, your whales are going to take longer across the board to make their first purchase, but once they do, they become 98% of your purchasing of your sales. So what this basically, I brought this up because you want your content to elapse a long period of time. You want your content to elapse at minimum 18 days then, right? You want something to keep them hooked for that period of time. So you'll see a lot of the progressive systems in the games cater to at least that period of time, like, 20 days, login rewards and things like that. Maybe hatch timers. I know this game is pretty notorious as far as like grow timers. The friendship tree, for example, you have to log in once a day for, I believe, 20 days straight to grow that up. So it's like you want to have systems cooked into the game that elapse long periods of time if you're wanting to capture whales, right? You stay away from Twitter personally. What little social media you do is on Blue Sky now. I don't like what Blue Sky has become, being frank. I think it's become a echo chamber for certain sorts of people, and the things that I see quoted out of there are particularly heinous and disgusting at times. I could say the same for Twitter, but I just don't see a reason to go to a smaller platform to see the same things. Fun fact, you also believe kids shouldn't be on YouTube since there is an app? Yes, absolutely. It sounds a lot like Facebook gaming. That's probably true. I haven't been on Facebook since, wow. Obama, maybe? I don't even know. It's been so long. I agree. I think so that the YouTube thing is a whole nother fucking can of worms. We're definitely going to get further into that in the future. I think the most nefarious thing in kids' YouTube right now is the videos that are pretending to be other content creators, and basically using subterfuge to get their content into the eyes of kids. So what you'll see, let me see if I can find now. I don't even know what I want to type here. Thus. Okay, so there you go. Like, what the fuck is this? So what you'll see is people will take existing content creators like Afmao. Afmao largely does child appropriate content. I watch my daughter watch Afmao from time to time. Her content is clean from what I've seen of it. It's child appropriate. But what other content creators will do is they will use Afmao's likeness to produce a video that is not child appropriate, and they will, get masquerade their video as a Afmao video to get views and viewership on YouTube, and it's actually not child appropriate content. This is a light display of it. I've seen very sexual content that has been disguised under the guise of being a children content creator. They also continue to push the letter. I'm going to say that a lot of even the YouTube child appropriate, like this. Then again, Afmao actually kind of disproved my point here with this thumbnail. Like even the children's content creators have largely been pushing the letter on continually more and more problematic content. Like this is a child's video thumbnail where that man is very clearly being stabbed in the chest with a knife. So like even the children oriented content nowadays on YouTube is becoming way more and more like they're pushing the, you know, it's to get viewership, you know, obviously, but at the same time it's becoming problematic for the children that are watching the content, where, you know, it's becoming progressively more and more child or adult oriented content, even from the original content creators themselves. You haven't watched AFML for years, but they do this with other YouTube channels. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was like. The AFML is just an example because I knew if I pulled it up, I would immediately find something. But yeah, this tactic is being used across YouTube for all the different kids channels. There will be multiple clones of people trying to, you know, capitalize on that name, and a lot of them will have child not appropriate content. Brent Rivera is a child content creator, but if you check his videos, they're very sexual. I absolutely believe that. I've seen a lot of it. It's a fucking problem. I do think that YouTube needs to be hypercritical, and it's also so like a lot of this comes back to the parents. I'm gonna be honest. My daughter is never on Roblox when I am not, or so she's never on the internet if fucking Daddy Helicopter's not hovering nearby. Period. And that's the answer, by the way. That's the overarching answer here. Parent your kids. But in order to understand what you're seeing, what you're looking at, and to be better informed on these things, you know, I highly recommend you look into, like I said, just understand the sales tactics that are being used against you on a day-to-day basis and being used against your kids. But you gotta keep, you know, you gotta watch with them. When she's watching, I'm watching with her. It's been a very I can't done both. There have been many numbers of times where I have grabbed the remote and said, you know what, sorry honey, you're not watching this channel anymore. And you need to have that initiative to curate the content that your children are watching. And in order to do that, you have to pay attention to them and what they're watching and talk to them about these things. Like at the end of the day, that is the answer. But YouTube also has a fucking problem, right? You need to acknowledge the fact that the YouTube kids videos are very much not YouTube or designed for kids or catered towards child content. It hasn't been. There's some of it that is, and there's a lot of it that is not. One thing I wanted to talk about is the core loop through the store. I kind of talked about this a little bit before. I'm kind of segueing back to the gambling practices thing here. So core loop goes through store. So this is going to be a common thing you'll see in a lot of games, where the core loop of the gameplay will somehow bring you back to the store. This game has literally been hammered down to just your garden and the store. So, like, you know, it's very obviously catered towards the gameplay loop is around the store. And if you want something out of the store, what do you know? You got to pay fucking Robux. So a lot of the gameplay loops, and it's like I was talking about how the games are basically effectively, you know, Skinner boxes with a fucking pay window, or with the Gamba shop attached to them. The core loop of the gameplay in a lot of the games that you'll see is going to involve some way, somehow, going through the store. Or they'll do things like red dotting. I'm sure you've seen this practice where something will be new in the store, and there'll be a little fucking red dot on the top right corner of that bitch until you click on it. And I couldn't tell you how many fucking games I have where you go into the store and you click on the things to make the red dot go away, and you exit the store and you still didn't get the red dot to go away, so you gotta go back in the fucking store and click through all the different things and try and figure out why the fucking thing is red and make it go away. Or maybe it's me. Maybe, I mean, it's probably just me, I'm sorry. Anyhow, so yeah, there'll be the core loop through the store, and a lot of the time they will have little OCD practices that will make you want to go into the store on a regular basis for one reason or another. Raid would do this as an example by, they'll give you in the store, they'll have one area where there's one thing that you can pick up one time every day for free. You know, you can pick up your free 25 freaking knickknacks once a day out of the store from the free section of the store. But again, what that's doing is it's making it a habit for you to visit the store. It's making you want to return to the store, making you have that that regular instinct of going to the store on a day-to-day basis and seeing all the things that are on the shelf. So that's like having the core gameplay loop involving the store in one way, in one way or another, is it going to be a repeated theme you'll see in these games. I talked a little bit about labeling techniques earlier, and this is not as much of a thing. I'm trying to think of a good example of this in Roblox. So what this is, and I haven't seen good practice of this used, but what the idea is that if you compliment your customers, if you call them the things that you want them to be, they will be these things. So what is, basically when the company will assign values to that they will assign the values that they want from their customers. And a lot of that will be assign their customers as being like charitable, or working towards the benefit, or helping along, or family unity kind of deal. Basically where the company will assign like pay piggies kind of rhetoric to the people that play the game, where they will make it okay to be a payer by glamorizing the people that do, if that makes sense. Maybe congratulating the people that paid, saying X amount went to so and so charity or what have you. Rewarding the charitability of the people, or being amazed at the sheer amount of currency coming in, and sort of thing. So it's like you want to speak with a rhetoric that is positive to your whales, right? That is positive to your customer base, to incentivize them to act a certain way. And I'm sorry I don't have great examples for this one. It's not honestly a commonly used tactic by companies, but it is a tactic that is used. The way that they will iron down purchases is typically into 4 categories, and they have different ways to progress in these games, right? So if you were to so for the achievers, and you're trying to sell progress to the achievers, you typically have 4 different styles of progress that you can sell, right? Well, maybe not so much with first, the way you progress in a game is through your personal skill. If you play the game well, you play good, then typically that's a way you'll progress. Another way that you can typically progress in a game is through luck. If you open up a loot box or whatever and you get an amazing fucking weapon that helps you beat the next boss, you have been progressed through luck. And then typically you'll have grinding. A lot of games will allow you to grind, where you will defeat the same level 1 boar in Elwyn Forest for X period of time, and you will level up and become the mightiest person in the world, right? You want to afford grinding to people that want to grind in their game. That is a way to progress. And last but not least, my noodle's kind of in the way again. The problem. You have payment. So you want to have all of these methods of progress built into your game, right? You want to have the people that want to progress by skill be able to do that, by luck be able to do that, by grinding be able to do that, and obviously by paying be able to do that. There's always a warning about skill. So skill caps, and you'll see this in every single Roblox game. There's maybe 2 that I can think of offhand that actually have a high skill cap, and that would be in the neighborhood of like Blade Ball. I could show a match of Blade Ball, but there are some games that do have a high skill cap on them, but for the most part, Roblox games are very low skill cap games, right? They're designed towards children. You typically don't want to have the skill caps in your game be very high, because it will marginalize the amount of players that are able to become whales, right? They're able to become your big paying customers. If it's hard to play your fucking video game, that's going to remove a percentage of players off from the beginning. You don't typically want that. So you don't want your skill cap to be too high. The analogy that I would give for that is you want the whales to be able to still eat the minnows, right? If the skill cap is so high that on the game where the minnows start being able to fight the whales, it's a problem, and your game is going to have problems. You want the minnows to always be food for the whales, otherwise the whales are going to stop being whales. They want to pay for that experience. If you don't facilitate it, they're going to leave. That's just how it works. So you don't want your games to have too high of a skill cap. You want it to have a low skill cap to incentivize, your big players. To allow for more opportunities for big players. Adopt Me. So I'm saying Adopt Me is fully pay to play. I feel like every game on Roblox is pay to play, or is pay to win. Pay to play though, I don't know about that. I'm sure there's a way you can pay it for free, but as with any freemium game, it's probably horrendous, and you probably have to play for years to to get to whatever level. So you just you want to have all these these styles of progress represented in your games. Payment being a way to progress, grinding being a way to progress, and again, having skill be a way to progress, but not being overarchingly too difficult. You don't want it to be too big of a deal. And I did talk a little bit about currency. Did we do currency obfuscation? All right, I don't think I did, so I'm gonna touch really quickly on that. So the premise is, and you'll see this in a lot of video games, in basically any freemium game, in fact. Let's go to, so currency obfuscation. Usually in these games, you're gonna see a lot of different kinds of currency. Roblox games, honestly, to be perfectly transparent, Roblox is not as bad about this as a lot of the freemium games can be. Genshin Impact, Tower of Fantasy have nefarious 7, 8, 9, 12 amounts of currency that you have to keep track of. Most Roblox games are not this bad. Usually you've got maybe 2 or 3 layers of currency obfuscation. What that is so obviously you have your base, your freaking dollar bill, your buckaroos. That's where the purchase is going to start. It's going to turn into Robux from here. And then, once it's come into the game, in a lot of instances, you're going to find where it'll turn into, in the game, you'll purchase, maybe we'll say tickets, right? And this will be the in-game currency that you would then purchase things in the shop with. In this, I think maybe it's seeds or something themed to the game. Basically, the game will have its own currency after Robux, right? That'll be used to purchase their products. Sometimes there'll be another layer beyond that. For example, just to give an idea how the flow would look, you would spend your dollar to buy your Robux, like at the store or whatever. You'd get your Robux, come into the game, and you'd purchase your tickets in the game, which you would take the tickets then, say to another system, another person in the game, and he would allow you to purchase maybe scratch offs that give you diamonds, and you need a certain amount of diamonds to get whatever the new best weapon is. So you see how this goes, right? You start off and you put in like $5 or whatever. That turns into 50 Robux or whatever. That's maybe, I don't know. For this, we'll say that's 15 tickets. And if you spend those 15 tickets, you have maybe a 1 in 3 to get your diamonds. So we'll say about 5 diamonds. And then, you think, well, the thing that you need costs 20 diamonds. So what this does is it's making it less transparent how much money you're actually spending on things. When you're trying to picture how much does it cost me to purchase this 20 diamond axe. Well, you got to do a few different layers of math, and the numbers are never this clean, by the way. The numbers are always very, odd numbers, just to make the math as awkward as possible. So it's always to make it as hard as possible for the consumer to understand what they're purchasing, to understand exactly how much money they're committing to the purchase. And this will also, it'll also cause you the old hot dog conundrum to happen, right? Where you have 8 buns and 6 hot dogs, where you will be forced in a lot of instances to inefficiently spend your money in order to acquire the things that you want. So, you know, if in the instance, a lot of times you'll be able to purchase 800 Robux or whatever, but the next season pass is 950. You know, so they'll intentionally breakpoint the purchases that you can make to be intentionally inefficient, right? So it'll be a breakpoint that's intentionally inefficient to force you to make additional purchases to shore up the difference that you need to get the item you want. So it's, you know, this is another strategy that they're going to use to try and make you spend your, when you do spend your money, to spend it as inefficiently as possible. Let's see. I'm pretty sure I talked a little bit about currency obfuscation too. That's one of the lesser problems, but it's just it's a pattern, right? It's so many points on a line, and that's what this ends up coming down to. When you go into a game that is entirely designed for children, you know, the theming, the advertisement, I fail to see how an advertisement for Roblox is not an advertisement for gambling. These two things are the same. You could even go as far as you know, it's inviting philia, but I'm not going to go that far today. I would say that at the very least, it is advertising for gambling when every single game on your platform has gambling cooked into it. Your gaming platform is a gambling platform and should not be catered towards kids. It's kind of the moral of the story on all that. Hope this was informative for folks. I done a bit. I knew a lot of this stuff before. I did a bit more research just to make sure I was you know, teaching or talking about the right things. If anybody, like I said, this is gonna be on YouTube. I'm gonna clip it up and put it up. If any, you know, if you guys need help and get the word out there, it's just extremely important to me. Thank you. This is probably some little kid that's like, I want to give them my flowers. Oh man. I try not to interact with people in this game at all, because every time I'm thinking like, that's, you know, that's, I feel bad if I don't be nice to them. I don't know if that makes sense. Because on the other side, I know it's some like 4-year-old, or, you know, it could be somebody like 4-year-old girl. It's like, I want to give that person some flowers, and yeah, I get it. Man, it just reminds me of my daughter. And I hate I hate not being able to chill and play and stuff. But I hope that this was useful to everybody. And that's basically it for Roblox today. I don't think I summarized and went over everything I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I pulled up the Grow a Garden. We're at 22.3 million concurrent players on Grow a Garden. They hit 19 million players over the last 30 days. So the Roblox craze is freaking crazy right now, and it's like a, you know, Grow a Garden, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to showcase Grow a Garden in particular, is because it's one of the most like super refined examples of the problems where the game is just literally a, you know, it's just literally a Skinner box with a fucking gambling system cooked into it. And I think people, you know, need to be more and better informed about what they're experiencing, what their kids are being faced with, you know, when they do play these games.
Hey, I'm YL, and I could be live right here, right now. You won't know until you check. See ya.